Morning, everybody. Andy here again. It's Friday, nearly the weekend. I'm sure you've got lots of plans like me. So, first off, I should put the figures down below. The daily deaths yesterday, as I suspected, they went up 861. So, that's not unexpected, but I imagine that's pretty much where we're expecting to be. Let's put it that way. Total number of deaths now 13,729. But the tested figure, as I said before, the government's aim by the end of this month, April, and we're halfway or over halfway through April, is to have 100,000 tests per day, and we've been testing obviously for quite some time now. We've been in lockdown for over 3 weeks, and the amount of tests done are 327,000, and a lot of those people, that's not 327 individual people that have been tested. Lots of people, obviously health workers and people like that, are getting tested more than once. So we've got a long way to go on that. Yesterday's album, once again I should put down there, was Radiohead's second album, The Bends, which came out in 1995, and I thought that was quite appropriate because I love the album anyway, one of my favourite albums, and I thought the bends, how do you get the bends? By coming up too quickly out of, from a diving situation. But because of that, because what had happened yesterday, our lockdown was eventually given another date. We've now got another 3 weeks of that. And there is, I watched quite a bit of the news conference yesterday that the government minister did, Foreign Secretary, and I thought he was pretty good in lots of ways. Certainly got the message across, maybe a bit long-winded, but he certainly got the message across. And what he was saying was that, they have to be very, very careful. They've given another 3 weeks of lockdown, suggested that this may well go on for longer than that, and I would be very surprised if we come out of this before the end of May. But his whole point was we can't come out of this too quickly. If we come out of this too quickly, we're just going to end up right back where we were. We can look at where other countries are, as I've said before, about Spain and Italy and other countries starting to relax their rules, which aren't as draconian as ours anyway. But apparently Spain, the amount of cases just slightly started going back up again. And that's the danger, because the economic problems are a big concern of any government, and obviously a lot of us as well, because it hits home to every single person in the country one way or another. So they have to balance that. And yes, a lot of people want to get out there. They want to get back to work. They want to be with their friends, their loved ones, and get out and socialise and all that type of thing. But it's not easy. It's going to take a long time to do this. And I've said this before, I'd rather the short-term sort of pain for a long-term gain. And I think that's the way that the government are doing. Some other places maybe aren't doing that, and they might catch a cold, to excuse the expression, through what they're doing. Hopefully they won't, and hopefully we won't. So I suspect this is a long road, and we have to take it slowly. But we are still being reminded of this. We are still in a bit of a sort of halfway house here with our lockdown and the way that our lockdown is administered, policed, because the new guidelines are coming out, and there's some new guidelines that came out yesterday. In fact, I remember because I was talking about books, and this is the book that I was reading, The Old Ways by Robert Macfarlane, and I've just finished that, but it's one of those things. It's talking about walking on the old ancient pathways, not just in the UK, but in other parts of the world as well, and Spain and Palestine, that sort of area, And it makes you think, oh yes, I'd love to get out there because I do love to walk myself. And you can't do it at the moment, obviously, because you're not supposed to do it. But then I see an article suggesting that the police had been given more guidance, saying that maybe you can drive a bit further to do some walks. But the problem is all of these guidelines are still very woolly, to put it one way. They say that, yes, you can go out, but then you can't. You can go shopping, but you can't. You can do exercising, you can't. There's no definitive answer, and because we are in that halfway house of a lockdown, that's always going to be the problem, I think, and it's all interpretation, types of interpretation as to whether you're allowed to do something or whether you're stopped from doing something, prevented from. And then there's that, I'm thinking, yes, I'd love, maybe I can go out and do a walk and drive half an hour to do a nice walk up on the South Downs. But I think, no, I wouldn't be comfortable with doing that, and I don't think it's the right thing to do, because we were told not to go out to do that, to save pressure on the NHS in case we have an accident, you need an ambulance and end up in hospital and all that sort of stuff, unfortunately. So other countries, by having the full lockdown, probably are in a better situation. They know exactly where they stand at home, basically. So that's what I was going to talk about. But one other thing, the book I'm just about to read, actually, is this one, Michael Palin's book. I picked this up actually in Hay-on-Wye in a bookshop. I've never been to Hay-on-Wye and you like books. That is the town to go to. And it's his second book of his diaries, because he's been keeping a diary since the 60s, and he still does it now, and he's done several volumes. The first one was all about the Monty Python years. This particular book, as I said, I haven't started it yet. It's all about his time when he was making lots of films. The Missionary, he was in The Fish Called Wanda, and Monty Python films as well, and he obviously spent quite a lot of time in America. But being a diary, and this being a diary, one of the points he makes right at the beginning, there's like the introduction, is he's gone back to that. He's got notebooks and millions of words worth of writings there to use for that, and he has had to edit it to an extent. But there's always that temptation when you go back to something like that, is to alter it, because obviously you're writing that now. I'm doing these videos now. You don't know what the future holds, but that's the joy of them in some ways, because you can't edit them. You can't edit the future. So what I'm talking about now is what's happening now. It might be completely. We might look at this in the year and think, what on earth was that stupid old sod going on about, or something like that. It never happened that way. But that's the beauty of a diary, and that's what he was saying there. That's what makes them so fascinating sometimes, because you're reading or watching what someone was talking about on a specific day in history. And sometimes you look back and think, wow, that was great that was recorded, like Samuel Pepys or something like that, as I've spoken before. Or you can look at it and think, well, no, it didn't really happen like that at all, but it reminds you of that. So it looks as though I've got another 3 weeks of doing this at least. I intend to do it, partly for my own benefit, as I said. I know people are enjoying watching these, and thanks for all the comments for people who've said that. And it's nice to know that people like the friendly face, the friendly voice or whatever, and to hear what it's like in other countries, etc. as well. And as I said, I've quite enjoyed doing them as well. It's quite interesting. So another 3 weeks of me. Do you reckon you can put up with that? It'll probably be worse than the lockdown itself, won't it? Anyway, stay strong, stay safe, and stay at home, probably, I think, is the right advice to give. So, and hopefully I shall see you tomorrow. Goodbye.